Diablo 4 Lord of Hatred is a major shakeup to the game's progression and endgame. The story has done a complete 180 in terms of tone and direction when compared to the previous expansion, and the overall feedback for the expansion has been very positive. I'd like to give some words towards what were the highlights for me this expansion, but before doing so, I want to talk about something, namely how I think the dev team were able to pull through and deliver a fantastic expansion. If we look at their work post Vessel of Hatred, the game was in a situation where communities and influencers were consistently mocking the game due to its structured seasonal approach, that is, the consistent addition of what became known as seasonal powers each season. This led to a situation where seasons were very light on overall content and seemed to upset content creators. However, I always looked at this from another approach. I enjoyed the seasonal powers and what they were able to bring to the table. I wasn't disappointed because I felt as though, in the back of my mind, there was likely a lot more going on behind the scenes. It is very likely that the seasonal team had a very small amount of developers working on it so that the team could be redistributed to fire all cylinders on a major expansion pack. This would end up being a form of hidden momentum. Through this format, while we had small seasons, we were able to get a shadow drop class, which was insane, especially considering that this class was basically designed twice, pre-Vessel of Hatred and post-Vessel of Hatred. Furthermore, this approach also allowed them to deliver two classes instead of just one, alongside a much richer campaign and completely revamped gear progression, character class trees, and endgame. Not to mention them delivering even further with adding in more systems such as the talismans, charms, and crafting. It's a complete understatement to say that Lord of Hatred towers over Vessel of Hatred. Not only just the content provided, but the quality of that content as well is far, far higher. I truly believe that all of this is the result of allowing the team to focus hard on the expansion rather than doing large and elaborate seasons. Personally, for me, this paid off immensely. Which would you prefer? Small seasons with large expansions or large with small expansions? Let me know in the comments. I'm quite curious to see what the community thinks about this. For the main highlights of the expansion, two things particularly stood out for me. The first being the war plans and activity skill trees. The war plans help you decide out a structure for your endgame, and certainly allows you to get some variety in the endgame instead of just spamming one activity over and over. The Warplan skill trees, however, are awesome. The skill trees are a bit small, but they really allow you to customize each activity. Each point I earned felt meaningful, as all the nodes can help change the activity in some way. I always look forward to getting and spending another point in each tree. I really think the devs did a great job here in making the skill trees exciting. The second thing that stood out to me was the addition of the cube and crafting. The cube has introduced a completely unique crafting system to the game that did not exist before, and with some research and testing, allows you to craft all sorts of gear and push your character even further. This has allowed all sorts of changes to the item economy in terms of determining what could be useful as a dropped item. Using the cube, I was able to craft all kinds of cool things to help gear up my character and give myself needed power boosts as I push through the various torment difficulties. Furthermore, the cube can also be used to upgrade items, such as 5 dungeon keys giving you an escalation sigil, or upgrading your tiers of Undercity tributes, and even upgrading an actual target farming for legendary runes to help craft any mythics your build might need. Overall, Lord of Hatred is an absolute step in the right direction for Diablo 4. And all of this work that teams put in is greatly appreciated. The current season seems a bit shorter than usual, so I'm pretty excited to see what the developers are currently working on for next season, and what approach they will take in terms of small or large seasons, and perhaps in contrast to the amount of content provided in the current expansion. Overall, I've really enjoyed my experience with Lord of Hatred and my playthrough of the new campaign and pushing all the way to the higher tiers and beating the new super boss. I enjoyed playing Warlock. I homebrewed a build up that you could see on the screen. It's alright, but well, it at least allowed me to get through to the new secret boss. So I'm very curious about this approach and what the dev team will do from here on out. Again, in terms of small seasons, large expansions, or large seasons, small expansions. I'm very curious to see what the community thinks about this and kind of what they would prefer. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for checking out my video. If you enjoyed the content, please feel free to like and subscribe. Have a good one.